Hello everyone, welcome to my webinar on Key 21, the world. Let's begin. Let's see. Here we are at Key 21, the world. We have now arrived at the 7th stage of spiritual unfoldment, the tarot card called the world, Key 21. So everything that you are is shown in this key. Your realization of the message for you in this key will arrive from within yourself. We will cover the symbols on the card, and how they speak to you will be very personal. There are actually no words that can adequately describe what is going on here, but we'll do our best, and the following will just be a taste for you to explore further with your own intuition. And I will mention this key appears to be quite familiar because it is very similar to a previous key that we covered, key 10. So we'll carry forward that symbology. And let's move on. Here we have the last card of the major tarot keys. And it's considered cosmic consciousness at this point. The title is a symbol of cosmic consciousness or nirvana. Your entry into this consciousness means that you now have first-hand knowledge of your identity with the one power, the source of the whole cosmos. The universe is the dance of life, the inmost central self of you. That is the eternal dancer. The number 21 is the sum of the numbers from 0 to 6. Therefore, 21 shows completion of the power of the principles represented by the 7 keys from 0 to 6. So these keys, as you can see on your left, are the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Teacher, and the Lovers. So these keys are the principles upon which this key rests. So here we have the planet Saturn, and it is the planet attributed to key 21. To the right you see the symbol of Saturn, and you can see it also in the lower right-hand corner of the card. So the card is down at the bottom there, and in the lower right-hand corner, very, very tiny, it's on the card. According to mythology, Saturn ate his own children. He represents that which absorbs its own expressions back into itself. That's rather interesting, because this card is the return back into itself. So that should ring a few things in your mind. From the Hebrew name for Saturn, Sabbathai, we get the meaning Sabbath, the day of rest or inertia, and the 7th day of the week. And of course the Hebrews used Friday as their Sabbath, and the Christians used Sunday, the day of the sun, as their Sabbath. In the tarot tableau, the top row represents principles. The second row represents agencies, and the third row represents results. So you're looking here at 7, 14, and 21, and if you looked at the tarot tableau, the top key is the Chariot, below that key is Temperance, and below that is the World. Therefore, the principle at work in key 21 is actually represented by key 7. The hero's journey is the quest for the self. The goal is the self. The knowledge is self-knowledge. The power of the infinite and eternal self is the only power. The self is the one working through the mysterious, glamorous power of reflection and duality. This is shown in the number of this key 21. Let's look further at the number 7, which is at the top of this column, and the principle behind key 21. In Hebrew, the word for 7 is spelled with the same letters. As a verb signifying to be full, filled, satisfied. As a noun meaning abundance, plenty. As an adjective that is translated satiated, satisfied, full. As a verb meaning to swear, to vow, to confirm by a solemn oath, to express solemn intention of purpose. Among the meanings of 7 are mastery, conquest, peace, safety, security. And peace and safety are associated with abundance and plenty. So you can see why the result would be cosmic consciousness. Conquest, another meaning of 7, is the outcome of carrying definite purpose into action. Peace is what follows conquest. Conquest is the establishment of equilibrium between contending forces. Thus, in connection to the number 7, we may expect to find a power that can establish harmony, can bring order out of chaos, a power of adaptation and adjustment. That power is will, as expressed in key 7, the chariot. That's the underlying concept of key 7. We all have access to a limitless supply of willpower. Where we differ is the degree of our ability to express this power through our personalities. And you may be interested, if you think of the number 7, you have the candelabra on the altar, and they are 7. And you have 2 of them that are 7 when a master is present serving communion. We have the 4 figures in the corners, similar to the Wheel of Fortune, which is on key 10. They correspond to the fixed signs of the zodiac. So here we have, in the lower left-hand corner, the bull relates to Taurus, the lion to Leo, up above the eagle to Scorpio, and the man to Aquarius. The mental activity pictured in key 10 turns the mind away from form to the consideration of spirit. And how this is represented is the bull represents the element of earth, that which gives form. The bull is turned towards the lion. The lion is ruled by the sun. So the comprehension of the law of cycles in key 10 is an act of mental abstraction. Attention is turned away from the formation of things. The bull faces its fiery essence, the lion, the sun. The bull faces toward the center of the key. The center is where the symbol of spirit is shown at the heart of the wheel. You're going to notice that in key 21, the bull faces away from the lion. So this is very important. So you really want to get a grasp on the action of why the bull's head turns when it reaches key 21. So first we're looking at the spiritual essence, and then we move on. In key 21, we have the bull turning away from the lion, away from the center of the design. This indicates that the forces pictured by the world move toward concrete manifestation. Very interesting. Saturn is attributed to key 21. The emphasis is on the cosmic forces that limit energy in producing form. The goal of the great work is not abstraction. It is demonstration. It is expression. It is orderly procession of energy into suitable forms. You could say the adornment of the life power with suitable garments. Also, these four creatures represent the great name, Jehovah, or Yod-He-Vah-He. And these are found on the fool's inner garment. So if you go back and look at the fool, around his neck on his white garment are these four symbols in Hebrew. The numbers of these signs in the zodiacal series are 2, 5, 8, and 11, adding to 26 the number of Yod-He-Vah-He. So that's the four signs of Leo and Aquarius and each of the signs that we've discussed. Their positions at the corners of the key suggest that all manifestation is included within the boundaries of that name and the reality for which it stands. I mean, one of the reasons we study the cards is to understand how they portray various concepts and activities through the symbols on each card. And so we go into depth on that as we cover each card. Here we have the Hebrew letter Tav, which is attributed to this key. And you see it means mark or signature, but the mark is a cross. So is the cross. So there's the letter Tav in the lower right-hand corner, but you also see the symbol of a cross directly above it. The Egyptian Tau corresponds to this, or Tao, corresponds to this letter. It was a tally for measuring the depth of the Nile, a square for measuring right angles. So we're talking mathematics here, and the underlying mathematics are very important, but we don't go into great depth about them. But mathematics have a great deal to do with cosmic consciousness. In the Old Hebrew alphabet, Tav was written as a simple cross of equal arms, like on the banner of the angel in key 20. And as you look to the left, you can see a simple cross. But it's now written differently, as you can see in the symbol, the large symbol. Thus, it is a symbol of salvation from death, a signature of eternal life. And it's also on the last card of the major arcana. And as a symbol on the last card, it is like a signed document, which is the entire major arcana has a signature on it at the end. Just like any other kind of document we sign when we go into agreement with another person. You have a contract. Everybody has to sign and date. So, dominion and slavery is the pair of opposites attributed to Tav. Right interpretation of the necessity for limitation in any form of manifested existence is the secret of dominion. Wrong interpretation of the same thing is the cause of our slavery to conditions. So I'll repeat. Correct interpretation of the necessity for limitation in any form of manifested existence is the secret of dominion. Wrong interpretation of the same thing is the cause of our slavery to conditions. The clue to the right understanding is the aphorism, quote, "He who would rule nature must first obey her laws." As a signature, the letter Tav implies security, pledge, guarantee, A signature makes a business instrument valid. Tav indicates the final seal and completion of the great work. At the center point of the cross, where the two lines meet, is represented the inner center at which the one identity has its abode, according to the Book of Formation, which we've covered in past cards. The Book of Formation describes how the cube of space was created from the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And yes, we will have a series on the cube of space. I find it very, not only interesting, but a lot of fun because it gives you an idea of where you're at now. In the cube of space diagram, the abode of God is at the heart of it, in the center. Now this is a little hard to see, but at the very center you will find card the World 21. This abode is also termed that which is not. It has no physical form. It might well be indicated by the 0 sign. The 0 is attributed to the Fool card. This abode is by no means a non-entity. This inner point is a positive metaphysical and intellectual reality. If you grasp the idea that this place of God or holy temple that stands in the center, that it is necessarily everywhere, you will see that it must be the center of your own being. So this idea or place of God or holy temple, this point, is of necessity everywhere. And therefore, it must be the center of your own being. Tav is also assigned the administrative intelligence. Quote, it is so called because it directs all the operations of the 7 planets, associates their activities, and guides them in all their proper courses. The occult planets are the same as the interior stars mentioned in key 17, the star. Each of these planets corresponds to a Hebrew double letter. And of course, these are also the chakras in the human body, as you can see by the diagram on the left. You have the Hindu term for them and the English term to the right for each center. Tav represents the point of control at the center, at the heart. That's clearly indicated. There are 3 centers above and 3 centers below the heart, if you look at the diagram. But this is not in the physical sense, in the sense of the midst, inmost, core. To get at the heart of your personal existence, you enter the palace of the king. There the one self is enthroned. In the core is the central point of authority and rulership. It extends its boundless influence throughout the cosmos. When the great work is accomplished, the Father and the Son are one. The new kingdom is established. And I'm sure you've read in some literature, either in the New Testament, Bhagavad Gita, and various established books about this mystical experience, that love is the connecting wires to each of us, from each of us to each of us, among us. Love is that wire. If you wanted to communicate with someone, you would transmit. Now we do it through the air, but in the past we would do it through wires hung out on the streets. You could look out and you sometimes wish, well, I wish they would take all those wires and put them underground. But in essence, imagine those wires are love. And that's the only way we can communicate, is through the point of love. Without it, we are cut off. not only from ourselves and our Creator, but from each other. So we have to understand that Tav represents the point of control at the center, at the heart, and that's where you need to be and function from, or you can't not only not see yourself, but you cannot see anyone else. The wreath is an ellipsoid figure. Its long axis is exactly 8 units. Its shorter one is exactly 5 units. Getting back to math again. A rectangle which would enclose it would be 5 by 8. The area of this rectangle is 40 square units. 40 is the number of the mother letter M, Mem. Mem corresponds to key 12, the hanged man. That is the gentleman who is hanging upside down by one foot with his head surrounded by light. And his hands do not show, they're behind his back. So just to remind you what he looks like. The total length of the 4 sides of this ellipsoid is 26. 26 is the number of the tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He. The wreath represents the name. The whole wreath represents the name, Yod He Vav He. Yod He Vav He is the fundamental principle of form. The entire cosmos is the representation or manifestation of this name. The wreath has 22 triads of leaves. Each triad corresponds to a Hebrew letter. Aha, the Hebrew alphabet comes in again. Each letter is one of the 22 aspects of conscious energy represented by those letters. Each letter corresponds to one of the 22 tarot keys. So we've gotten to the end. It's always good to go back and review each of those keys to get an idea about this. Every mode of the life power has 3 kinds of expression: integrative, disintegrative, and equilibrating. The third balances the other 2. Note that the wreath is a work of man. Nature provides the leaves. Man weaves them into a garland for the victor. The wreath is a symbol of human adaptation of the forces of nature. The wreath also suggests that cosmic consciousness is not spontaneously provided by natural evolution. Rather, it is the completion of the great work. Man is the workman. That's very important. You know, being a couch potato is not going to move things along. You will move along eventually because you will get inspired eventually. But how many lifetimes do you want to take to do this? So this is a reminder to remember this is a book for initiates to understand what they need to do to move along on the path of initiation and to realize the self within themselves, to get to know themselves. So cosmic consciousness is not spontaneously provided by natural evolution. Man is the workman. Hurry, hurry, hurry. The wreath is fastened with bands. They are, let me just go back. You can look at that. So look at the wreath. You've got the bands at the top and the bottom, those red crosses. So now we'll talk about them. The wreath is fastened with bands. They are similar to the figure 8, over the head of the magician and over the woman in key 8. So you look to the right, you can see those. And yes, I actually remember to put key 21 over here on the right, so that's easy to see. All we see is the portion that makes the form of a letter X. They have the same meanings over key 1 and key 8. Here they are red on key 21. This suggests that the law symbolized by keys 1 and 8 has been carried into action. At the very beginning of this course of cards, I talked about colors quite a bit. I don't refer to them as much now that we've gotten further along, but just to remind you, red is the color of activity. This is also an ancient form of the letter Tav, this X. The power represented by Tav is used by man who uses it to bind the forces of nature into a wreath of victory. It also hints that the X form is, more accurately, the horizontal 8, the figure of mathematical infinity, the symbol of the truth that opposite effects are produced by identical causes. The dancer wears a crown of 7 red flowers. See key 21. This indicates that the forces of organic life are at full fruition. The power of will from the chariot, key 7, there on the right, is made fully manifest. The wreath rests on the bull and the lion. That's interesting. Even to this point, the symbology is far more than you can imagine. I spent quite a bit of time studying this. So man's power of giving form, the bull, to the formless, fiery essential energy, the lion, enables him to weave together the 22 modes of force derived from that one energy. So that's the source of our ability to weave this wreath. The outline of the wreath is a 0 symbol. The ellipse of manifestation is a no thing. It has just as much power over him as he gives it. It does not really bind him. This happens when he understands what it is. The world of a master of life is a wreath of victory. But this is very important because we're moving away from cause and effect, the binding law of cause and effect, that yes, it exists in nature, but we're not held to it because we're at the point of cause, always. The dancer appears to be feminine, but is a celestial androgen. Her purple veil is in the form of the Hebrew letter Kaf. Kaf relates to key 10, the wheel of fortune. In key 10, we see that the mechanistic appearance assumed by natural phenomena veils their true character. The cosmos seems to be a system of wheels within wheels. It presents itself to our intellectual consciousness as a vast machine. Cause and effect seem to be rigidly and unalterably connected. This is only relatively true. The life power is the author, therefore the master of the law of cause and consequence. All laws are part of manifestation, but no law binds the self. The world dancer is perfectly free. That state of freedom is now. Hence, the dancer stands on nothing. She is self-supported. She herself is in perfect equilibrium. Each spiral in her hands has 11 loops. Together they are 22. They symbolize the modes of consciousness of the 22 Hebrew letters and tarot keys, which you've been studying the last several months. That in her right hand turns clockwise. That in her left hand turns counterclockwise. The wands represent the spiral force of the life power that in the right hand symbolizes involution, the other represents evolution. When you enter cosmic consciousness, you experience directly what is symbolized in this key. You will perceive directly that whatever is being disintegrated is exactly balanced by that which is simultaneously being integrated. Evolution is balanced by devolution, association by disassociation, integration by disintegration. And it is at this point that you will know that through you, the governing and directing power of the universe flows out into manifestation. I will repeat, you're knowing, and this is when you know the self, that it is through you, not some outside thing, through you, the governing and directing power of the universe flows out into manifestation. That's why you need to study the cards again, so you understand how powerful you are and how to control that, so you don't constantly shoot yourself in the foot. When the self is known, it is known as the master of the show of illusion named the world. The name of that master in Hebrew is Ayah, A-H-I-H, or I am. This is the supreme divine name attributed to Kether. Kether is the crown of primal will on the tree of life. So the tree of life is on the right, at the top is the crown in white. This name is connected with this final tarot key. Its number is also 21. So you've reached the crown. We are at the end of the tarot keys. The goal of the great work is to know the self, but not merely as a witness, not to be aware as something external. Here, your consciousness at this point, here you identify with the central reality of the universe. Such knowledge is really the acme of practical power, the emphasis being on practical. In alchemical books, this knowledge is symbolized by the philosopher's stone. This is the mineral kingdom as the truly wise perceive it. Here is a representation of what you really are, of what the cosmos really is. The universe is the dance of life. It is the immortal, central self of you that is the eternal dancer. I would suggest now that you begin again at the Fool card, at the very top. Work your way through the cards one more time. You may find now that when rereading them, that more is revealed to you than was on your first go-round. This time, spend 5 minutes first just looking at the card before starting to read. Allow the card to speak to you. Have a notebook ready to write down any thoughts that may come to you. This is your journey. Just by going this far, you are already well along the way to your personal transformation. And as I mentioned early on, very early on, when I've introduced you to the Fool card, I mentioned that in the Fool card, there is no responsibility. You're one with God. In all the other cards, all the other keys, they are full of responsibility to yourself, to knowing who you really are, and to knowing who all those people really are. that you see every day when you're driving in a car, when you're in a crowd, when you're in a small room with family and friends. I would suggest you take a good look at who they really are and address them as such, as expressions of God, and also that God expresses through each and every one of them to you. Thank you for attending my webinar on Key 21, the Sun, the World. Please go to my website on gatesoflight.wordpress.com for more information about the symbols and colors of the keys. I will also be posting a recording of this webinar on my website. Does anyone have a question?
I just unmuted everyone.
Great.
I was just going to make a comment. When we were talking about Saturn, Saturday, the Sabbath, actually, the Sabbath, the Jewish celebrate the Sabbath on Saturday.
Saturday, right.
Which actually makes sense. They begin on Friday at sundown, but the Sabbath is the actual day, so it fits into what you were saying.
Thank you. You're right, because I have gone to a Seder on Friday evening, so I do know that. Any other questions? You realize this is the end of the cards. There's, of course, a lot more to them. And some of the things I did not cover in depth is sound. Each card has a sound. Similar, so when you use your word to manifest with, each card has a sound. I don't go into that. You may want to talk to a teacher about that. And also some of the colors, some of the way they relate onto the tree of life. We haven't covered that either. So there's a lot more to learn. This is actually just a introduction course on these 22 cards. And I look forward to classes ahead going over the 7 steps in or stages of spiritual unfoldment, and the next one will begin on September 3rd. The first stage is bondage, and since we have a little time, I will tell you the 7 stages. Bondage is the first one. Awakening is the next column, so you can look at the tarot tableau in front of you and visualize that. The third column of 3 cards is revelation. The fourth column is organization. The fifth is regeneration. And the sixth is realization. And of course, today we covered the 7th, which is cosmic consciousness. So if there are any more questions, otherwise, we are finished, and I appreciate and am happy that you all have attended and are interested enough to explore this avenue, which may open a few more doors for you in understanding your inner self and the great being that each of you are.